Okay, we're doing it. We're doing it. I'm going to be reading romance books for 1 week. I'm not a massive romance reader, but I dabble, and I enjoy it. I've read a couple this year. I enjoyed them. So I thought, next logical step, spend an entire week reading them, because that makes sense. So, let me talk you through my bookshelves. So, I organised, first and foremost, so round of applause for me. This is my romance shelf, plus all the ones that are randomly on different shelves because I didn't organise very well. But the first book I'm going to read is Book Lovers, because I found this in the library and I have to return it, so we need to read it. But I was very, very excited to see this in the library because, everyone please forgive me, I know this is controversial, I've never read an Emily Henry book, but I've heard nothing but insane things. So yeah, I know absolutely nothing about this other than unless that's a different Emily Henry book. I don't know, I guess we'll find out together. But this is the first book I'm going to read, and then for the rest of the week we'll pick some of these and come along for the ride. Let's go. Yeah, okay, I said in the intro that this was about two, not rivals, but two authors swapping genres. I think that's a different book. I think that's a completely different book by Emily Henry, but I think I've heard so many people talk about Emily Henry books that it's not the same book. Alrighty, I am up to page 132 of Book Lovers. What the story is actually about, because it's not about two authors at all, but it is, I think this is where I got confused, it is about a literary agent and a editor. Nora, she has gone away with her sister Libby. Libby is pregnant and really needed a break, and the sisters were having kind of trouble. They felt like their relationship was a bit strained and something was wrong. So when Libby was like, why don't we just go away for a month to a small town, they've gone to, what's it called, Sunshine Falls, which is the location of one of the books that Nora had edited. So Libby really wanted to go there, and Nora is very uptight, very a workaholic, wants everything done a very particular way, and she's like, no, I can't, I've got too much work to do, I don't want to. And because Nora recognises that there's something upsetting Libby and she wants her to talk about it, Nora's like, okay, I'll come with you. And then in this small town, Nora runs into Charlie, who is a book editor, and they've got a sort of, not necessarily enemies, but they call each other nemesises. They call each other nemesises, but nemini? No. They call each other rivals, but they're not necessarily they hate each other. They're just both quite similar personality types in that they're both very particular, want things done a certain way, both quite uptight. And in the past, the opening scene of the book is that they have this meeting and it doesn't go very well. And then after the first chapter, it's 2 years later, and she runs into him in this small town, and they've basically started hitting it off. And it's very fun, and I'm enjoying Emily Henry's writing so far. There's loads of great one-liners. The banter between Nora and Charlie is really, really fun. I'm about a third of the way through the book already. I'm kind of flying through it. Alright, I have been sat outside pretty much all day reading Book Lovers. I'm very hot. It's warm. It's a warm September. I got to page 273, which is chapter 26. Charlie and Nora. I love them. I love them. Yeah, it is really cute. The banter between the two of them is great. They're both so funny, their back and forths, the retorts are just so good. There is also a theme of grief, running as a sort of undercurrent to the book. So there's quite a few bits about Nora and Libby's mum who died, and you find that out right at the start of the book, but it kind of has started getting explored a little bit more now, and you're getting bits of Charlie's life now, and they're both kind of dealing with their own stuff. This book has done a really good job of recognising the tropes that a lot of romance books fall into, and then like almost doing like a nod to them but not doing them exactly the way you'd expect them to be done. The opening of this book is all talking about those tropes and how, you know, life isn't like that. And it's kind of like Nora still does go through some of those tropes, but there's like a spin on them, which is really fun. And it's kind of, it feels like Emily Henry's doing a little nod to like, I appreciate there are well-known tropes and people enjoy these, and I still want to write what people enjoy, but also write something new. I'm very much enjoying this. I've only got about 100 pages left. Good evening. Minor disaster. Disaster is very dramatic. Literally not a disaster. But I finished Book Lovers, completely forgot to film anything about finishing it, gave the book back to the library, moved on with my life. So I don't have the copy with me anymore, I've given it back to the library. But I thought I would wrap up my thoughts. So it was overall just such a fun read. It had the tropes of like small town, and I think it was sort of enemies to lovers, but it was kind of like ish rivals to lovers. But it was very fun. It kind of didn't have the third act conflict in the way that books will often have that third act conflict. Like it was there, but it wasn't just that they had an argument. It was a bit more complicated than that. And it was nice because there was a real depth to the characters. Like everything that Nora's dealing with, she's dealing with the grief of losing her mum, and lots of stuff happening with Libby that kind of you see affecting her and her relationships going forward, and how she feels about herself and her fears. And it was really interesting because on the surface it's this quite light-hearted small town romance, and then underneath that it's actually really quite deep and sad and like thought-provoking. But it was like a fun mixture. It didn't feel super heavy, but it didn't also feel super light-hearted. But yeah, all in all, very much enjoyed the book. I'm quite sad I had to give it back because I would have quite liked it on my shelves, but there you go. But we're now going to move on to the next book, which I have technically already read, but you haven't seen me read it, so that book is going to be The Flatshare by Beth O'Leary, so we'll jump into that now. I started The Flatshare by Beth O'Leary. It's my first Beth O'Leary book, although I have a few others of hers. I have The Switch, and I have, is it called The No-Show, I think? So if I like this, I've got a few more. So far we've got Tiffy is the main girl, and she's basically split up with her ex-boyfriend, who is not a very nice guy by the sounds of it. He's a bit obsessive and controlling. So she's decided to leave him, but she can't really afford to get her own place. So she found this guy called Leon on a forum online, I think, who is a palliative care nurse, I think. He basically works nights, so he's like, well, you can have the flat at night, and they're basically sharing a bedroom, but they're never meeting because they work different hours. She works like a 9 to 5, he works in the night, so they never meet. And basically the way they communicate is they leave each other notes. Leon, the main guy, has a girlfriend called Kay, but Kay also sounds quite controlling and like not brilliant for him. But yeah, I'm at page 111 and the main characters still haven't met yet, which is, I don't know, that's unusual for me. So I guess this is what you call like a slow burn, which I'm not sure I've ever really like read proper like slow burn romance. I'm interested to see when they're gonna meet, but yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm at page 164, so I've only read a little bit more, but they've had their sort of first encounter as a proper rom-com moment. They like accidentally basically ran into each other in the shower, but it's their first sort of, I mean, they didn't really speak, but they sort of kind of met. Yeah, I mean, a good chunk into the book before they even meet, and even then they haven't actually spoken. I don't know if they're about to, but up until now they've literally only been communicating through notes, but they seemed to get along. I also got to say, there is a subplot in this book. Well, there's quite a few subplots actually, but one of the main ones is that Leon's brother, Richie, is in prison, and Tiffy's basically helping him because her best friend is a lawyer. So she's been writing, well, they've been writing to each other, so he's been writing to her from prison. So that's like one of the reasons Leon also really likes Tiffy. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say actually. But yeah, first interaction of the characters, which is fun and such a long way into the book. But it's interesting to read a book where the characters don't actually meet until page I don't know, around the 150 mark. Interesting. For a romance as well. I'm up to page 245. So one of the side plots, which I don't think I mentioned before, but there's an old man at the hospital where Leon works, and this man has basically been speaking about this man that he was in love with back like when they were both, I think they were in the army, and his name was Johnny White, and so Leon has been trying to track down the Johnny White. So he's found like a bunch of people who it could have been. They've gone down to Brighton, and he's taken Tiffy with him, so they're actually interacting now. So him and Tiffy have basically gone on an excursion to Brighton, and they're having a jolly old time, and we're getting their actual interactions now. We're getting their banter. She's just fallen in the sea and like hit her head or something, so he's rescued her. It's all very rom-com. Johnny White is so sweet. He's such a cool dude. But yeah, we're finally getting their like actual interactions and whatnot. And it's nice to finally like see that paying off because it's been so long. But now they're like back in the flat. But now Leon's being like, I don't know how to speak to her now because they're still trying to go back to the notes because obviously they've still got the system in place where they still don't see each other. So Leon's like, I now don't know how to talk to her because they both thought there was a moment, but they're like both not entirely sure. But it's fun. It's fun so far. I think I've got 150-ish pages, so I'm hoping I can finish this today. It's quite early in the day, so I think we can do that. I finished the Flatshare. It got quite heavy in parts towards the end. Like the last third or so, there were lots of like moments of her realising like how much her ex-relationship like is really affecting her still now. So you do see some of that come through when she's starting to build something with Leon. So I would also maybe check the trigger warnings because I didn't necessarily expect the heaviness. It is only like sort of in parts, but it definitely has darker themes. Like you always have his like looming presence. He keeps showing up randomly and then telling her that it's like, oh no, that's just like a coincidence, and him like gaslighting her. It was a sweet ending. There was multiple people brought together, shall we say. I won't spoil it, but it very much gave that sort of found family feel. So that is the second book of the video done. So we need to pick our third book. Okay, I actually don't know, it's overwhelming, I'm going to pick later. Flatshare done, book club is done. We're going to pick one more book for the rest of the video, and then yeah, I don't know what that'll be yet, but we'll see. Alrighty, it's a couple of days later. You'll be pleased to know I've actually picked a book now. So we're going to be reading The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is on my TBR for this month anyway, so makes sense. I know it's not necessarily just a romance. I know it's like a historical romance and it's maybe more literary fiction, but I know it is about a romance. I do kind of actually know what happens in this book. I've seen a lot of spoilers, but I don't think it matters per se. Maybe it does. I don't know. We'll find out. But I'm not reading it. I have to read it. I need to know for myself. I'm very excited. It's my first Taylor Jenkins Reid book actually. I own Daisy Jones and the Six, which I found thrifting the other day. I don't think I own any others. I really want to read Carrie Soto is back because, I don't know, it just sounds really interesting to me. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're going to go start The Seven Husbands. I'm very, very, very excited. I am up to page 164. I actually didn't realise how much I've read because I've literally been taken out of my house and put in this book, in this world. That is how it feels. Because I'm not a quick reader at all. I reckon I've been reading this for like a couple of hours and I'm literally nearly halfway. This writing is just, I'm just eating it up. We are introduced to Monique Grant, who basically works for a journalist editing company. She has basically been called into an office and been like, you're gonna write this article on Evelyn Hugo, who is this really, really famous actress who quite famously doesn't do
interviews, and Evelyn Hugo has basically said, I want to do an exclusive with you, but I'm only going to do it if Monique Grant writes it. And Monique is like, why me? And her boss is also like, I don't know. But she wants Monique to write a book, not a piece for the journal. So Monique's kind of like trying to navigate that, because she's basically been given this job by her boss, but now Evelyn's being like, no, don't do it for that company, do it as a book for you. But basically she's trying to get things out of Evelyn. Evelyn's very, there are certain things she just won't answer. She like straight up is just like, next question, I'm not answering that. And Evelyn is basically telling us her life story. It's basically cuts between the interview in modern day when Evelyn is like quite a lot older and talking to Monique. It goes back to Evelyn in the 50s and her experience of getting into like show business and meeting all these people, and basically her growing up through the years. And I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. It's like almost not one long running romantic arc, because she's meeting lots of people and she's marrying all these different people over, and she's marrying them for different reasons. Like she describes one of them as like the love of her life, but it's like sometimes she has to do things strategically for her career, and like there's lots of different reasons. And it also talks a lot about the dark side of the film industry and Hollywood, which is just very, very interesting to read about. And yeah, I'm going through this so quickly and I'm absolutely loving it. Hello, good afternoon, how are you doing? I am at page 282, so I'm on chapter 50. I just love this book. I know, I've kind of known this for a while, but I just know this is like going to be one of my favourite books of the year. I do realise that everyone and their mum has already read this, but I haven't, and I'm enjoying it. So we're getting to, obviously we're still kind of going through the parts of the different relationships that she's had over the years, but we're getting to the sort of more, the romance side in terms of that one person that's like a bit more prevalent, if that makes sense. And this was the spoiler that I had, that I mentioned earlier, that I kind of knew who the main, if you know what I'm talking about, I kind of knew who that person was, and that was like the spoiler I was talking about, but I don't think it really spoils it. It's just gorgeous. I love Harry, I love Cecilia, I love Evelyn. I feel so sorry for Evelyn, because so much happens to her that is just so like horrible. But she's like one of those people who just sort of like pulls it together and just keeps going, because she's been through so much in her life. And you can kind of see those things reflecting on her now as an older person, being like she keeps stopping the interview and being like, that's enough for today, or like, I'm not talking about that. And Monique's like trying to get things out of her. She's like, no, I'm not going there. So much has happened. Obviously, it's like pretty much the span of her entire life. And it's just so sad. There's so many parts of her life that she has to keep hidden from the media, because she's become, at this point in the story, she's like really, really famous. And everyone she knows is really, really famous. And you kind of see the side of her that's like the side that she presents to the world and to the media, and then you see the side of her that's like her reality and how different those are. And one, that's just really fascinating to read about, but it's also so heartbreaking, like all the stuff that she has to hold back and all the things that she kind of has to put a facade on and pretend. And I think Taylor Jenkins Reid has just done such a fabulous job of making one person's life into this many pages but still be so full and complete. And I see why everybody loves this book, and I love it too. I've got roughly 100-ish pages left. Yeah, I'm probably gonna finish today actually, because I'm just adoring it. I finished last night. I had to step away. I couldn't film. I was a mess. Yeah, I cried so much. I cried so much. I not like a couple of tears, like I wept. Firstly, the plot twist. I didn't think this was the kind of book that was going to have a plot twist. The plot twist, bravo. Just so sad, all of it. Oh my god. Taylor Jenkins Reid has done such a wonderful job of making Evelyn Hugo this completely three-dimensional person, where she does some stuff that you back her so completely, and she does other stuff that is just, you don't back her, and some stuff that you love her for and some stuff that you hate her for. And she's done such a wonderful job of making her this fully complete person and taking us on this entire journey of her life. And then I'm here like, she must be real. But boy, did it break my heart. Oh, I'm not much of a crier. I don't know if that's true. I don't cry a lot in books. I don't know if that is true either. There aren't many books I've cried at. There really aren't that many. I would say it's under 10. It's definitely under 20 that I've ever cried in. Yes, definitely one of them. I cried a lot. I cannot wait now to read Daisy Jones, and I'm gonna have to buy more of her books. Or I found Malibu Rising in the library the other day, so maybe I'll try that. I don't know if that's... I get the impression that's a bit more straight romance, whereas this and Daisy Jones and Carrie Soto and stuff, I think they lean a little bit more to the literary fiction, which this definitely did lean more to literary fiction, but was heavy on the romance as like a theme. So I would say all in all, we had a pretty successful week. We started with Book Lovers, which I do have to return to the library tomorrow, and I am excited to read whatever else Emily Henry has. I want to read Happy Place, and I really want to read Beach Read, which, I'll be honest, is what I thought this was. And then we had Flatshare, which just felt really different to me. It's such a unique idea, having characters who you don't meet for like the first, what was it, half of the book, third of the book, and then but you still backed them as people and their relationship, even though they didn't really have one. So I just thought that was really cool. And this made me sob, and any book that makes me sob instantly is a winner in my book. I think every book I've ever cried at I've given 5 stars to. It's just something about it. If you can make me feel that much emotion, you've got me. But yeah, 3 really fun books. 3 very, very different books. But a good week of reading, I will say. Thank you very much for watching this video. Do thoroughly appreciate you. If you've got any romance recommendations for me as a newbie, hit me up, let me know. But thank you for your time. Appreciate you being here. Have a delightful day. Please subscribe. You're wonderful. Yeah. And have a good rest of your day. Thank you very much.